Dr. Hannah Park adjusted her uniform as she prepared for her first meeting with the Miri delegation. As the lead cynobiologist on Station Harmony, she was responsible for cultural and biological exchange with humanity's newest galactic neighbors. The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a slender figure with iridescent blue skin and large, curious eyes. This was Neri, the Miri scientist assigned to work with Hannah. "Greetings, Dr. Park," Neri said, her translator converting the musical chirps into human speech. "I have studied your species extensively through your transmissions. Your biology is fascinating." "Thank you," Hannah replied with a smile. "I'm looking forward to learning about the Miri as well." Over the next few weeks, Hannah and Neri developed a comfortable routine. They exchanged information about their respective planets, cultures, and scientific advancements. Neri was particularly interested in human social structures. One evening, as they reviewed data in Hannah's quarters, Neri noticed a holographic display on Hannah's desk. "What is this gathering?" Neri asked, pointing at the image of Hannah surrounded by smiling people. "That's my family," Hannah explained. "My parents, brother, and cousins at our last New Year celebration." Neri's eyes widened with interest. "Family. This concept intrigues me. You share genetic material with these individuals?" "Yes, that's right." "And how exactly is this genetic sharing accomplished?" Neri leaned forward, eyes shimmering with curiosity. Hannah paused for a moment, unsure how to answer. The Miri were a newly discovered species, and their biology was very different from humans. "Well," Hannah began carefully, "humans reproduce in pairs. One male, one female. They combine genetic material to create offspring." Neri tilted her head. "Pairs? Only two? How inefficient. But tell me more." Hannah explained the basics of human reproduction in simple terms. As she spoke, Neri's skin changed color from blue to purple, which Hannah had learned was a sign of excitement or surprise. "So the offspring grows inside one parent. For months?" Neri asked, her translator barely keeping up with her rapid chirps. "And you know exactly which two people created each new human?" "Fascinating." Hannah nodded. "Yes, that's why family is so important to us. We know our direct ancestors and descendants." Neri moved closer to the holograph. "And these connections last your entire life?" "Usually, yes. My parents raised me. They taught me everything I needed to know to survive and thrive. We stay connected even though I'm on this station, far from Earth." Neri made a soft trilling sound. "The Miri do not have this. When new Miri form, they grow in community pools. Many adults care for them. No one knows which adult contributed to which child." Hannah was fascinated. "So you don't have the concept of parents?" "We have caretakers and teachers, but not parents as you describe them," Neri explained. "All adult Miri are responsible for all young Miri. It is our way." The two scientists spent hours discussing the differences between their species. Hannah described human families, marriages, and parenting. Neri explained Miri community structures and their group approach to raising young. "Your way seems so personal," Neri said. "To know exactly who made you. To have two specific beings committed to your success. And your way seems so communal and supportive," Hannah replied. "No child is ever without care." As they talked, Hannah noticed Neri becoming more animated. The Miri's skin shifted through shades of blue and purple, and her movements became quicker. "Could I perhaps observe human reproduction more closely?" Neri asked suddenly. "For scientific purposes, of course." Hannah nearly choked on her tea. That's not really possible," she said, trying to hide her embarrassment. "Human reproduction is private." "Private?" Neri seemed confused. "But it is just biology. On my world, we share all scientific knowledge." Hannah took a deep breath. This was exactly why cultural exchange was important. For humans, reproduction involves intimate physical contact. It's not just scientific, it's emotional and personal. Nari's color shifted to a pale blue, which Hannah recognized as the Miri equivalent of embarrassment. I see. I have made an inappropriate request. Not inappropriate, Hannah assured her quickly. Just a cultural difference. This is why we're here, to learn about each other. They continued talking late into the night. Before Nari left, she looked once more at the family holograph. I think I understand now why humans are so driven to explore the stars, yet always speak of home, she said softly. You carry your connections with you, no matter how far you travel. Hannah smiled. Yes, and we make new connections wherever we go, like you and me. Nari's skin glowed a warm blue. Like you and me, she agreed. The next day, Hannah and Nari met in the station's botanical garden. The artificial sunlight streamed through the glass dome, making the plants glow with vibrant colors. Nari's blue skin seemed to shimmer as she sat next to Hannah on a bench surrounded by earth flowers. I would like to explain how the Miri create new life, Nari said, her translator giving her musical chirps a soft, melodic quality. Hannah nodded eagerly. I'd love to hear about it. Nari pointed to the sky. On our world, we have 3 moons. Once every 2 years, these moons align perfectly. When this happens, all adult Miri go to special places we call the crystal pools. Crystal pools? Hannah asked. Yes, they are deep basins made of a mineral that catches and holds light. During the moon alignment, these pools glow with the combined light of our 3 moons. Nari's skin rippled with colors as she spoke, showing her excitement. We reproduce through spore dispersal during this lunar alignment, Nari continued. When the 3 moons align, mature Miri release spores that collect in the crystal pools. The combined genetic material develops into new Miri over 6 months. No individual Miri knows which spores created which offspring. Hannah leaned forward, fascinated. So it's a communal process. Everyone contributes to the gene pool, and the spores mix randomly. Exactly, Nari said. When the new Miri emerge from the pools, they belong to everyone. All adults take care of all children. That's remarkable, Hannah said. Very different from humans. Nari tilted her head. Now will you explain human reproduction in more detail? Hannah took a deep breath and began explaining human reproduction in clinical terms. She described the biological process as scientifically as possible, focusing on cells, DNA, and physical development. Nari listened with growing amazement. Her skin shifted from blue to purple to a deep indigo as Hannah spoke. So humans choose specific partners for genetic combination? Nari asked. And you carry developing offspring within your bodies? Well, females do, yes, Hannah replied. Nari's skin flushed a deeper blue. This direct genetic exchange sounds incredibly efficient. Our scientists have theorized such methods but considered them impossible. Hannah was surprised. Really? Your scientists thought of this but didn't think it was possible. Yes, Nari said. The idea of carrying a developing life form inside an adult body seemed too complex and risky. We thought it was just a theory, not something any species could actually do. Over the next few days, Nari asked many questions about human reproduction. She was particularly interested in pregnancy and childbirth. Hannah answered as best she could, though she had no children of her own. And humans can choose when to reproduce. Nari asked during one conversation, You don't depend on moon cycles or seasonal changes. That's right, Hannah said. We have much more control over when we reproduce compared to many Earth animals. Nari made notes on her datapad. Fascinating. Truly fascinating. Later that week, Hannah and Nari sat together in the station's dining hall. The room was filled with humans and various alien species, all enjoying meals from their home worlds. The air smelled of exotic spices and familiar Earth foods. Nari had been quiet throughout the meal, seemingly deep in thought. Suddenly, she looked up from her food, her large eyes fixed on Hannah. Dr. Park, Hannah, could I try human reproduction? She asked innocently. It seems like an advanced technique I could learn from. Hana choked on her drink, coughing violently. Several nearby diners turned to look at them. A human officer from the next table stood up, looking concerned. "Are you okay, Dr. Park?" he asked, ready to help. Hana waved him away, still coughing. "Fine. I'm fine," she managed to say between coughs. Neri looked confused. "Did I say something wrong?" Your vital signs showed distress. When Hana finally caught her breath, her face was red. "Neri, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" Neri's skin paled to a light blue. "Please explain." Hana lowered her voice. "Human reproduction isn't a technique or skill that can be learned or tried by different species. It's a biological process specific to humans. Our bodies are completely different from Miri bodies." Neri's eyes widened. "Oh, I thought it was a method your species developed that could be shared, like your cooking techniques or your music." Hana shook her head. "No, it's not like that at all." She could see other station personnel watching them with curious expressions, and she felt her face grow even hotter. "I have made an error," Neri said, her voice soft. "I did not understand the nature of your reproduction. I thought it was a cultural practice, not a biological necessity." "It's okay," Hana assured her. "This is why we're here, to learn about each other and avoid these kinds of misunderstandings." Neri's skin had turned an almost white-blue color that Hana had never seen before. She guessed it might be the Miri equivalent of extreme embarrassment. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation in private," Hana suggested, noticing that they were still drawing attention. Neri nodded quickly. "Yes, I have much to learn about human biology and culture, and you about Miri." As they left the dining hall, Neri said quietly, "I am grateful for your patience, Dr. Park. Different species, different stars, but the same curiosity brings us together." Hana smiled. Despite the embarrassment, she was glad for this strange encounter. It would make their research more complete, their understanding deeper, and it would certainly make for an interesting addition to her research notes. After the incident in the dining hall, Hana and Neri moved to a quiet corner of the station's observation deck. Through the large window, they could see the stars and the curve of the planet below. The room was empty except for them. "I believe I've caused distress," Neri said, her skin paling to a light azure. "Have I violated a taboo?" Hana took a deep breath and sat down on one of the cushioned benches. She patted the spot next to her, inviting Neri to sit. "It's not exactly a taboo," Hana explained gently, "but reproduction for humans is very private. And more importantly, reproduction isn't a technology or skill to be shared between species, Neri. It's a biological process unique to each species, requiring compatible genetics." Understanding dawned in Neri's large eyes. "Oh, I thought it was a cultural practice humans had developed. How embarrassing." Her skin turned an even lighter shade of blue. "On my world, we freely share all scientific advances and cultural practices. I assumed reproduction was the same." Hana smiled. "That makes sense from your perspective. Our species are very different biologically. Humans couldn't reproduce the way Miri do, and Miri couldn't reproduce the way humans do. Our bodies aren't built for it." Neri nodded slowly. "I see now. You use biological methods while we use what you might call a more environmental method." "Exactly," Hana said, relieved that Neri understood. "Neither is better or worse. They're just different evolutionary paths." As they continued talking, two human officers walked by. They glanced at Hana and Neri, and then whispered to each other. Hana felt her face grow warm. "News travels fast on a space station," she muttered. "Have I damaged your standing among your people?" Neri asked, concerned. No, Hana assured her. "It's just a bit embarrassing, but it will be forgotten soon." However, the story did not fade away. By the next morning, versions of what had happened were spreading throughout the station. Some were accurate, but others were greatly exaggerated. In one version, Nari had proposed marriage to Hana. In another, the Miri were planning to steal human DNA. At midday, Hana received a message on her datapad. Please report to Commander Kim's office at 1400 hours. Bring Science Officer Nari. This isn't good, Hana told Nari when she found her in the lab. We've been called to see the station commander. Nari's skin turned a worried gray. Will we be punished? I don't think so, Hana said, though she wasn't entirely sure. But we need to explain what really happened. At exactly 1400 hours, they stood outside Commander Ta Kim's office. The door slid open, and they entered. Commander Kim was a serious man with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes. He gestured for them to sit. I understand there was a miscommunication, Commander Kim said diplomatically. Hana nodded, feeling her face flush. Yes, sir. There was a cultural misunderstanding about reproduction. Can you explain? The commander asked. Hana described what had happened, with Nari adding details about Miri perceptions. As they spoke, Commander Kim's expression changed from serious to amused. By the end of their explanation, he was trying hard not to smile. So Science Officer Nari believed human reproduction was a technological achievement that could be shared. He asked. Yes, Commander, Nari replied. On my world, all advances are shared freely. I did not understand that reproduction was a biological function specific to each species. Commander Kim nodded thoughtfully. I see. He was quiet for a moment, then surprised them both by laughing. I apologize, he said, regaining his composure. But this might be the most innocent first contact misunderstanding in Earth's history. Hana and Nari exchanged relieved glances. This presents an excellent opportunity, Commander Kim continued. We should expand our cultural exchange program to include detailed biological education. He tapped on his datapad. I'm authorizing a new initiative under your leadership, Dr. Park. Work with Science Officer Nari to develop educational materials about both species biology, reproduction, and social structures. Thank you, sir, Hana said, surprised by this positive outcome. Understanding each other is the foundation of peace, Commander Kim said. Your misunderstanding may end up teaching us all something valuable. Within days, Hana and Nari were leading a new initiative to prevent similar misunderstandings between their species. They set up a small classroom in the Cultural Exchange Center and began holding sessions for both humans and Miri. The human reproductive process begins with cells called gametes, Hana explained to a mixed group during their first session. The Miri process begins with the alignment of our 3 moons, Nari added. As they took turns explaining their species biology, Hana noticed something wonderful happening. The humans and Miri were asking questions, laughing together, and forming connections. What had started as an embarrassing mistake was bringing their people closer. After the session, an older human scientist approached them. I've been studying alien biology for 40 years, he said, but I've learned more in this 1 hour than in the last decade. Sometimes we need a little misunderstanding to open our eyes. Nari's skin glowed a happy blue. From confusion comes clarity, she said, using a Miri saying. Hana smiled. Perhaps asking an awkward question wasn't the worst first contact after all. The cultural exchange program was growing more successful each week. Humans and Miri gathered regularly to learn about each other's ways. The embarrassing misunderstanding between Hana and Nari had become a popular story that both species used to show the importance of clear communication. 1 month after the incident, Hana sat in her quarters preparing for a special event. Today, she would introduce Nari to her family back on Earth during their scheduled video call. She had told her parents about her Miri colleague, and they were excited to meet an alien from a newly discovered species. Are you nervous? Hana asked as Nari entered her quarters. Nari's skin shifted to a light yellow color. Yes, this is my first direct contact with Earth humans, other than station personnel. Your family is important to you, so I want to make a good impression. They'll love you, Hana assured her. Just be yourself. At exactly the scheduled time, Hannah's communication screen lit up. Her parents appeared, sitting in their living room in Seoul. Her mother wore her favorite blue dress, and her father had put on a formal shirt for the occasion. "Hannah, so good to see you," her mother called out. "Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad," Hannah replied with a warm smile. "I want you to meet someone special. This is Neri, my Miri colleague." Neri stepped into view of the camera. Hannah's parents' eyes widened with wonder. "Mom, Dad, this is Neri, my Miri colleague," Hannah introduced properly. Her parents waved enthusiastically from the screen. "We've heard so much about you," Hannah's mother exclaimed. "How are you finding Station Harmony?" Neri bowed slightly, a human gesture she had learned. "It is a great honor to meet Hannah's family. Station Harmony has been wonderful. Your daughter has taught me much about humans, including a few things she didn't mean to teach," Hannah's father said with a laugh. Hannah had told her parents about the reproduction misunderstanding in a private message. "Dad," Hannah protested, but she was smiling. The conversation flowed easily. Hannah's parents asked Neri about her home world, and Neri asked them about raising Hannah. They showed Neri family photos and told stories about Hannah as a child. "She was always curious, always asking questions," Hannah's mother said. "Once, she brought home a frog and tried to keep it in her bedroom. We only found out when the poor thing escaped and ended up in our dinner soup." Everyone laughed, including Neri, though she didn't know what a frog was. "You two look so much alike," Neri observed, looking at Hannah and her mother. "Yes, everyone says I got my mother's eyes and my father's stubborn nature," Hannah replied. "And my brilliance," her father added with a wink. As the call continued, Hannah noticed Neri watching the interactions closely. The Miri seemed fascinated by the easy way Hannah talked with her parents, the inside jokes they shared, and the obvious love between them. When the hour-long call ended, Hannah turned to Neri. "What did you think?" Neri was quiet for a moment. "I understand now," she said softly. "Your reproduction method creates these strong bonds. It's beautiful in its way." "Don't Miri have emotional connections?" Hannah asked, surprised. "We have community bonds," Neri explained. "We care for all young equally since any might contain our genetic material. But this direct knowledge of relation, it's different." Neri moved to the window, looking out at the stars. "Your father has the same laugh as you. Your mother has the same way of tilting her head when she's listening. These connections are visible, tangible." Hannah joined her at the window. "I never thought about it that way. It's just normal for us." "I understand why you were embarrassed by my question now," Neri said. "Reproduction for humans isn't just biological. It's personal, emotional." Hannah nodded. "Different, but both valid ways of creating connection." "Yes," Neri agreed. "Different paths to the same stars." The next day, Hannah and Neri expanded their cultural presentations to include information about family structures. Humans were fascinated by the Miri community-based approach to raising children. "All adults are responsible for all children," Neri explained to the group. "Any child might contain your genetic material, so all are treated as if they were your own." "But how do you know who to listen to as a child? Who has authority?" asked a human engineer. "The whole community has authority," Neri replied. "Children learn to respect all adults equally." Meanwhile, the Miri were amazed by human family trees and genealogy. "You can trace your ancestors back hundreds of years?" one Miri asked in wonder. "Some families can, yes," Hannah confirmed. "My family has records going back 7 generations." After the session, Commander Kim approached them. "Your program is doing more for human-Miri relations than a year of formal diplomacy could have," he said. "Sometimes the best way to understand another species is to understand how they love." That night, Hannah found a small gift outside her door. It was a crystal from Neri's homeworld, shaped like Earth's moon. A note read, "Different worlds, different ways, same light shining through." Hannah smiled. From an awkward question had grown not just understanding, but friendship, perhaps the most important connection of all. 6 months passed quickly on Station Harmony. What had started as a simple cultural exchange between Hana and Neri had grown into something much bigger. Their work had caught the attention of both human and Miri leadership. The station's main hall was decorated with symbols from both cultures. Blue and white ribbons hung from the ceiling. Pictures of Earth and the Miri homeworld covered the walls. Hundreds of people from both species filled the room. 6 months later, Hana stood proudly in the station's main hall as Commander Kim inaugurated the new Interspecies Cultural Center. She wore her formal uniform with a special pin that showed the Earth and Miri homeworld side by side. Thanks to the groundbreaking work of Dr. Park and Science Officer Neri, we now have comprehensive educational materials about both human and Miri biology and culture, Commander Kim announced to the crowd. Neri, now wearing the formal sash of a Miri ambassador, stood beside Hana. Her blue skin glowed with pride. The sash across her chest was made of a special material that changed colors in the light, showing her new rank. Our initial misunderstanding has become the foundation for greater understanding, Neri addressed the crowd. What began as an embarrassing question has fostered friendship between our worlds. The crowd clapped and cheered. Some of the Miri made musical trilling sounds, their way of showing happiness. After the ceremony, there was a party with food from both worlds. Humans tried Miri light nectar, a sweet liquid that the Miri collected from special plants. The Miri watched in fascination as humans ate solid food. I still don't understand how you digest that, one Miri said to Hana as she ate a piece of cake. And I still don't understand how you get energy from just sitting in sunlight, Hana replied with a smile. When the party ended, Hana and Neri slipped away from the crowd. They went to their favorite spot on the station, the observation deck. From there, they could see Earth rising over the curve of the moon. The blue planet looked peaceful from so far away. As they watched the Earth rise from the station's observation deck, Neri turned to Hana. The Miri High Council has approved my request to visit Earth next month, she said, her voice excited. I will be the first Miri to set foot on your world. Would your family be willing to host me? Hana smiled warmly. They'd be delighted. My mother is already planning meals for you, though I've warned her you photosynthesize. Neri's skin rippled with the Miri equivalent of laughter. I look forward to experiencing human family bonds firsthand. Perhaps there is more our species can learn from each other after all. You'll love Seoul in the spring, Hana said. The cherry blossoms will be perfect for your photosynthesis, and my parents can't wait to meet you in person. Will your brother be there too? Neri asked. And your grandparents? I want to see these family bonds with my own eyes. Yes, everyone will be there, Hana assured her. They're treating your visit like a special holiday. A comfortable silence fell between them as they watched the stars. So much had changed since that first awkward meeting 6 months ago. Do you remember when I asked if I could try human reproduction? Neri asked suddenly. Hana laughed. How could I forget? I nearly drowned in my drink. I was so ignorant then, Neri said. I didn't understand the depth of human connections. And I didn't understand the beauty of your communal approach, Hana replied. We've both learned so much. A shooting star streaked across the black sky. On both Earth and the Miri homeworld, people made wishes on falling stars. Make a wish, Hana said. I wish for more misunderstandings, Neri said. Hana looked surprised. More misunderstandings. Why? Because that is how we learn, Neri explained. Without that first mistake, we would not be here now. Sometimes confusion leads to clarity. Hana nodded, watching the blue planet spin slowly below them. What had begun with an awkward question had transformed into something beautiful, proof that understanding could bridge even the most profound differences between worlds. I have one more question, Neri said, her skin turning a curious purple. What is it? Hana asked. What is a frog, and why did you put one in soup? Hana laughed so hard that tears came to her eyes. That's a story for another day, she said when she could speak again. But I promise to show you frogs when you visit Earth. I look forward to it, Neri said. To frogs and families, and all the wonders of your world. As they stood together watching Earth, Hannah thought about how far they had come. From strange aliens to close friends, from embarrassing questions to deep understanding. Two beings from different stars, building a bridge between worlds. The end.